The planet Varine 9 was quiet that evening, its twin moons glowing faintly through the clouds of silver mist. The human expedition camp lay near the edge of a glowing forest where strange blue leaves shimmered like tiny stars. Captain Elias Ward, commander of the exploration team, stood by the campfire. His face was tired, but his eyes still carried that human spark, the stubborn light of curiosity that had carried their species across the galaxy. They were the first humans to step foot on Varine 9, a newly discovered planet at the edge of the Orion sector. The mission was supposed to be simple: collect samples, record life forms, and head home. But that plan had already fallen apart. 2 days ago, Dr. Mira Keene, the team's xenobiologist, had gone missing. She had followed strange energy readings into the forest, and the scanners lost her signal soon after. Now Elias was preparing to go after her himself. "Captain," said Lieutenant Harlow, adjusting his scanner, "the readings are unstable. There's something out there, something big. The forest is moving." Elias looked at the tree line. The shadows swayed like living things. "I know," he said quietly. "But Mira's still alive." "I can feel it," Harlow frowned. "Sir, if those energy spikes belong to what we think, the locals, we could be walking into a trap." Elias smirked faintly. Wouldn't be the first time humanity made new friends the hard way. He grabbed his pulse rifle and moved into the mist. The air smelled faintly sweet, like honey mixed with ozone. Every few steps, something in the shadows twitched, shapes that looked half human, half animal. Rumors said that the Varine species were not like other aliens. They had sharp ears, long tails, and eyes that glowed faintly in the dark like foxes. They were fast, intelligent, and fiercely territorial, and some stories claimed they ate intruders. Elias reached a clearing after an hour of cautious movement. There, under a massive tree of blue crystal, he saw her. Dr. Mira Keene sat on a rock, unharmed but surrounded by 3 figures. The Varine. Their fur shimmered with color, and their faces were beautiful in a wild, otherworldly way. The one in the center looked directly at him, her fur pale gold, her eyes deep amber. A fox girl, if one wanted to put it in human words. Elias froze. His finger rested on the trigger. The golden Varine raised her hand slowly, palm outward, a gesture that seemed almost human. "You came for her," she said. Her voice was melodic but firm, each word carrying a faint echo. Mira turned toward Elias, relief flooding her face. "Elias, don't shoot." "They're not enemies," he lowered his weapon slightly. "Not enemies? You've been missing for 2 days. We thought—" "I know," Mira interrupted softly. "But they saved me. I fell near an energy pit and it was unstable. They pulled me out before it collapsed." Elias frowned, not convinced. "And now they're just keeping you here for tea." The fox girl tilted her head, her tail flicking behind her. "You humans think in hunger and fear," she said calmly. "We do not feed on your flesh. We feed on what you give freely." Elias blinked. "What we give freely." The Varine's amber eyes glowed faintly. "Emotion, memory, the warmth that lives in your mind. You call it empathy. We taste it like light," Mira smiled weakly. "It's true, Elias, they don't harm. They just sense emotions. The eating part is more symbolic." The captain's jaw tightened. "Symbolic or not, you shouldn't be alone here." The fox girl stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "You fear what you do not understand. That is your nature. But perhaps you should fear what hides deeper in these woods, not us." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Something worse than you?" Her eyes narrowed. "You should not mock. The forest is old. It remembers." As night deepened, Elias reluctantly stayed in the Varine camp. Their shelters were woven from living vines that glowed faintly blue. The air hummed softly, full of unseen life. The fox girl introduced herself as Erin, a guardian of the forest. Her people lived in harmony with the planet's energy, something like a living network connecting every creature and plant. Elias watched as Erin placed her hand on a glowing root, and the vines responded, shifting, pulsing, alive. "You control this?" he asked. "We listen," she corrected. "The forest speaks. We answer." Mira added, "Their biology is incredible, Elias. They're part organic, part energy, like walking neural links. They might be what connects the planet's consciousness." Elias gave a skeptical look. "Conscious planet. That's new," Erin smiled slightly. "All worlds have minds. Yours was simply too loud to hear them." Her words carried no malice, but Elias felt their weight. Humans had arrived on dozens of planets, taking, mining, studying, but never listening. As the night went on, the campfire flickered gently and Aaron began to hum, a soft sound like wind in crystal. The melody seemed to seep into the air, making even the human heartbeats slow down. Elias felt an odd calm, mixed with sorrow. He remembered Earth, the oceans, the laughter of cities, the faces of people he'd left behind. Somehow Aaron's song drew those memories out of him. When the song ended, she looked at him with quiet curiosity. "You carry heavy memories, human." "Too much war," Elias sighed. "War's what made us leave home." Aaron tilted her head. "And what will make you lose this one if you bring it here?" The next morning everything changed. Elias woke to a rumble beneath the ground. The forest was trembling, the trees whispering like frightened creatures. Mira ran from her tent, scanning the horizon. Seismic movement, but it's not natural. "Something's tunneling." Aaron appeared, her fur bristling. "It is the Corvan." "The ancient hunger." Elias grabbed his weapon. "Ancient what?" "The forest's shadow," Aaron said grimly. "A thing that feeds without heart or thought. Long ago we sealed it beneath the roots, but now your machines woke it." Harlow's voice crackled through Elias's calm. "Captain, we're getting massive readings under the base. Something's moving up fast." Elias cursed. "We're on our way." He turned to Aaron. "If this Corvan gets free, what happens?" She looked toward the forest where the ground was already splitting. "Then your species will not be the only ones to fall." Without waiting for more, Elias and Mira followed Aaron through the woods. Vines tore apart and glowing sap spilled like liquid light. The air shook with a low growl, not from an animal, but from the planet itself. At the edge of the forest, Elias saw the human base. The ground beneath it cracked open, swallowing machinery and metal. From the fissure rose a massive shape, black and shifting like a shadow made solid. "Is that thing alive?" Mira gasped. Aaron's eyes glowed. "It is hunger made form." The forest's forgotten pain. The creature lashed out, destroying equipment. The humans fired plasma rifles, but the bolts passed through it like mist. Elias shouted into his comm, "All teams fall back. Regroup near the ridge." But the shadow kept spreading. The air itself turned cold and whispers filled their minds, not words but feelings of despair. Aaron placed her hands on the ground. The roots around her glowed brighter, forming a barrier. "Your weapons mean nothing here. You fight with the wrong tools." Elias crouched beside her. "Then tell me how to fight it." She looked at him, eyes filled with something almost like admiration. "With life. With what you fear most to share," he frowned. "You mean emotion?" Aaron nodded. "The Corvan feeds on emptiness. You must give it something full." It made no sense, but Elias had seen stranger things in his career. He reached for his comm. "All units, stop firing. Focus power to the bioscanners. Transmit life readings into the fissure. Do it now." Mira's eyes widened. "You're using the scanners to broadcast emotion signatures?" Elias smiled grimly. "If it feeds on emptiness, we'll feed it hope." The human techs obeyed. Energy pulses spread across the field. Not weapons, but waves of neural energy encoded with human memories. Laughter, courage, songs from Earth, all turned into data and light. The shadow paused. It writhed, shrinking slightly. The whispers changed, from despair to confusion. Aaron stood beside Elias, adding her own power. The forest glowed with her light, joining the human signal. "Together," she cried. The ground trembled. The black mass screamed, a sound like 1,000 storms, and then burst apart, dissolving into mist. The silence that followed was almost holy. The forest sighed, alive again. Mira fell to her knees, exhausted. "We did it." Aaron looked at Elias with a faint smile. "You gave more than strength. You gave feeling. That is something even we forgot." Elias met her gaze. "Guess humans aren't all bad then." Her tail flicked once, amusement in her eyes. "Perhaps not. But your world still carries a wound. Learn to heal it before you bring it to others." Elias chuckled softly. "We'll try." Aaron stepped closer, looking at him with a strange curiosity. "When you return home, remember what you saw. The forest listens. So do we." Then she placed her hand gently on his chest. Not in hunger, but in understanding. "You expected the fox girl to eat her," she said with a hint of humor. "But perhaps it is we who were nourished By you. Elias blinked, realizing the truth in her words. The humans had come expecting danger, but they had given something instead, something that even ancient beings could not live without. That night, as the human camp prepared for departure, the forest glowed gently behind them. Elias stood at the edge watching Aaron disappear into the mist. Mira walked up beside him. You think we'll see them again? Elias smiled faintly. If they're half as curious as we are, I'd bet on it. She nodded. Strange, isn't it? We went looking for data and ended up teaching something to creatures older than time. Elias watched the moon's rise. The starship Aurora glided silently above the atmosphere of Varine 9. Inside the bridge, Captain Elias Ward watched the planet's forests shrink into a swirl of green and blue below. Beside him, Dr. Mira Keen still seemed lost in thought, staring at the planet that had nearly cost her life, and yet given her so much more. The events of the past day replayed in Elias's mind. They had arrived expecting danger, perhaps even death, but they had encountered something entirely unexpected, a civilization older and wiser than humanity itself. He pressed his palm against the cool glass of the viewport. You think Earth will ever understand this? He asked quietly. Mira shook her head. Not the way we do. It's complicated. What we saw there, it's not about technology or weapons. It's about connection, about sharing something deeper than survival. Elias nodded. Connection. That's not exactly humanity's strongest suit, she smiled faintly. Yet it is exactly what saved us. Back on Earth, the Aurora's return was met with excitement and scrutiny. News channels and interstellar agencies were already buzzing with speculation about the first human landing on Varine 9, but Elias and Mira knew that the truth was far more subtle than anyone imagined. They were debriefed in a secure facility on Luna Prime, a sprawling orbital station. Government officials, scientists, and military leaders crowded around, eager for answers. Did you encounter hostile life forms? One official demanded. Elias shook his head. No, but we faced a force more dangerous than any weapon. It wasn't hungry for blood, it was hungry for emptiness. We had to feed it, with hope. A murmur ran through the room. Feed hope? Another official asked incredulously. Mira stepped forward. It's true. The Varine aren't what you think. They are guardians of the planet, connected to its energy. Their feeding is symbolic, yes, but it's real in effect. They draw strength from emotion, memory, and life itself. The room fell silent. Many people struggled to reconcile their understanding of science with the idea that life could be nourished by something as intangible as emotion. Elias cleared his throat. In simple terms, our weapons would have failed. Our intelligence alone would have failed. What saved us was the human ability to care, something even the oldest species in that system had almost forgotten. One of the generals leaned back, unconvinced. And what about these Corvan entities? They're still out there, correct? Mira nodded gravely. They're dormant for now. But if another world, or even humanity itself, awakens the same kind of hunger, it could rise again. That night, in their private quarters, Elias stared at a small, holographic projection of Varine 9. Mira joined him, carrying a cup of steaming tea. They're amazing, she said softly, watching the tiny lights of the forest shimmer. It's like the planet itself was alive and they were the caretakers, and somehow we became part of it. Elias smiled faintly. Part of it. That's the key word. Humans rarely think about becoming part of anything. We take, we conquer, we leave footprints. But there, we gave something back. Mira leaned against him. Do you think we'll ever meet Aaron again? Elias's gaze softened. I hope so. But if we do, I hope we're ready to give more than just courage and hope. I hope we're ready to understand what it means to truly connect. Days turned into weeks and the public still buzzed about the Aurora's journey. Most of humanity interpreted the story in the way they always did. Heroes fighting alien monsters. Few could understand the subtler truth, but Elias and Mira knew that even a seed of awareness could grow. Then, an unusual alert came from the ship's scanners. A faint energy signature, very similar to the one they had left behind on Varine 9, was appearing in the outer sectors near a recently colonized moon. Captain, Harlow said, staring at the readings, these aren't natural phenomena. They're very much alive, Elias frowned. Alive like the Corvan? Mira shook her head slowly. Not exactly. But it's possible that some part of the Varian's network, the part we activated, extended beyond their planet. Harlow looked nervous. You mean the Corvan could follow us here? Ilias's jaw tightened. I don't think it's following. But something we awakened is spreading. And it's feeding. The thought was chilling. Humanity had left a mark on a world they barely understood. And that mark might now be influencing the galaxy in ways no one was prepared for. Elias convened a team of experts, human scientists, engineers, and even psychologists to analyze the readings. The Varine network, they realized, was more like a vast living web of energy, capable of resonating with emotions and thoughts. And the Corvan, once awakened, would seek out the emptiness in living beings, spreading influence wherever it could. Mira added a critical observation. If humans can feed it with hope, perhaps we can also control it. Not with force, but with intention. Elias nodded. Then it's not a battle in the usual sense, it's humanity proving we're worthy of our own strength. The next step was clear. They had to return to Varine 9. This time, not to explore, but to guide. The journey back was tense. Every crew member knew that they were approaching a living planet, capable of sensing their intentions. Unlike previous missions, weapons were minimized, replaced with sensors and devices designed to broadcast positive energy patterns. As the Aurora entered orbit, the familiar forests of Varine 9 glowed like living veins beneath the surface. Elias could feel the subtle hum in his chest, a resonance from the planet or perhaps from Arin herself. Arin appeared again at the landing site, her presence as calm and powerful as before. Her golden fur shone under the alien sunlight, and her amber eyes seemed to pierce into the hearts of everyone present. You return, she said simply. Elias stepped forward. We do. Something is spreading beyond your planet. We need guidance, Arin nodded. And you bring what you learned. Courage, hope, and understanding. Good. You are ready to act. Mira approached, eyes wide. We can do it together. Humans and Varine, Arin's ears twitched. Perhaps. But first you must feed what rises, not fight it. The Corvan is a shadow, not a monster. Shadows vanish in light. They traveled to the heart of the forest where the energy readings were strongest. The ground pulsed beneath their feet, glowing faintly. Roots stretched outward like massive veins, alive and aware. Suddenly a ripple of darkness emerged from the soil. A twisting, shifting mass, black as void, moving with intent. Elias felt its presence in his mind, a cold emptiness, a whisper of despair that wanted to consume all warmth. It's here, he said quietly. The Corvan, or what remains of it. Arin stepped forward. Then feed it, Elias frowned. Feed it again? Yes, she said simply. Feed it life, not fear. Show it what humans can give. Mira activated a network of sensors around them, transmitting human neural patterns encoded with emotion, memory, and courage. The devices hummed, broadcasting signals into the dark mass. Elias focused, closing his eyes. He remembered Earth, the laughter of children, the songs of cities, the hope of humanity to survive and grow. He poured all that energy into the broadcast, feeling the warmth expand through him. The Corvan writhed, shuddered, and then paused. Its whispers changed from hunger to confusion, then curiosity. It moved slower, as if examining the light it had never experienced. Arin joined him, adding her energy. The forest itself seemed to resonate with their effort. Trees swayed, roots pulsed, and the ground shone with a warm glow. Slowly the shadow receded, dissolving into mist. The planet exhaled a sigh of relief. When the danger finally passed, Elias opened his eyes. Mira was smiling, though exhausted. Arin looked at him with a mixture of respect and amusement. You humans continue to surprise, she said. You expected us to consume, yet it is you who nourished life. Elias chuckled. Guess we're full of surprises. Mira laughed softly. And maybe that's what makes us human. Arin's tail flicked once, playful. Do not forget, Captain. This is only the beginning. Hunger exists in many forms. Some shadows may appear elsewhere. But if you carry what you learned here, you may always be ready. Elias nodded solemnly. We will remember, and we'll make sure humanity learns too. As the humans prepared to leave Varine 9 again, Elias stood at the edge of the forest, watching the golden fox girl disappear into the mist. For a moment he felt the pull of the planet, a connection stronger than any he had ever known. Mira came to his side. Do you think we'll ever see her again? Elias smiled faintly. Perhaps. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that we carry the lesson with us. That being human isn't just about survival. It's about understanding, connection, and hope. Mira nodded. And maybe one day the rest of the galaxy will understand that too. The aurora lifted off, leaving the glowing forests behind. Above the planet, Elias looked out at the stars, thinking of Erin and her people. The universe was vast, full of shadows and hunger, but also full of light. And humanity, for all its flaws, had just proven it could shine brighter than the darkness.